Have you ever stopped to watch a sunrise and felt something ancient? A connection to something far bigger than yourself. It's a feeling shared by humanity across millennia. Long before we had written histories or complex pantheons, we had the sun, the moon, and the stars. We had the unwavering rhythm of day and night, the turning of the seasons. This, right here, was our first god. Time itself. Imagine our earliest ancestors gathered as the first light broke the horizon. This wasn't just the start of a new day for hunting or gathering. It was a sacred ritual. The sunrise was a promise, a rebirth, a daily resurrection of the world. The setting sun was sun, Giza, and it was a descent into a mysterious underworld, a time of reflection and storytelling around the fire. This daily cycle wasn't just a clock. It was the fundamental story of life, death, and renewal, played out for them every single day. This was their scripture, written in light and shadow across the sky. This reverence wasn't limited to the sun. The moon, with its waxing and waning, governed the tides, the hunts, and the cycles of life. The stars, wheeling overhead, were a celestial map, not just for navigation, but for understanding the grander patterns of existence. Ancient cultures, from the Mayans to the Egyptians, built monumental observatories, temples, dedicated to the cosmos. They weren't just tracking planets. They were communing with the divine, trying to understand the mind of their oldest god, time. Their calendars weren't just tools for farming. They were intricate theological documents, mapping out the sacred rhythms of the universe. We tend to think of time as a straight line, a neat progression from past to present to future. But for much of human history, this wasn't the case at all. Time was seen as a circle, or a series of repeating cycles. Think of the Hindu concept of yugas, vast cosmic ages that rise and fall, or the Aztec belief in the 5 suns, where worlds are created and destroyed in a recurring cosmic drama. This cyclical view suggests that history doesn't just happen once, it echoes. The challenges we face, the lessons we learn, are part of a grand, repeating pattern. It's a humbling thought, isn't it, that we are actors in a play that has been performed countless times before. This ancient understanding of time offers us a profound sense of perspective. In our fast-paced, modern world, we're obsessed with now. We chase deadlines. We optimize every second. We live in a constant state of forward momentum. But what if we took a moment to look up, to reconnect with that cyclical rhythm that our ancestors knew so well? See in time not as a thief that steals our youth, but as a wise ancient entity that governs the dance of the cosmos, can be incredibly freeing. It reminds us that every ending is also a beginning. Every sunset holds the promise of a sunrise. Every winter paves the way for spring. We are part of this eternal cycle, a brief but beautiful note in an infinite symphony. By embracing this, we don't lose our sense of purpose. We find a deeper one, rooted in the very fabric of the universe. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt a sense of wonder, a feeling of connection to something ancient and vast? For thousands of years, our ancestors did the same thing. But for them, the stars weren't just beautiful points of light. They were a map, a clock, and a sacred text, all rolled into one. Today, we're going on a journey back in time to uncover how these ancient skywatchers mapped the heavens and what cosmic secrets they might have known that we've long forgotten. Imagine standing in a field thousands of years ago. There are no city lights, no pollution, just an endless dome of glittering stars. Every night, you'd see the same patterns wheeling overhead. You would start to notice things. That one bright star always appears in the east just before the sun rises, signaling the start of the planting season. That group of stars, shaped like a hunter, always dominates the winter sky. This wasn't just casual stargazing. It was a matter of survival. The sky was the ultimate calendar and navigation tool. Ancient cultures all over the world, from the Babylonians and Egyptians to the Maya and the builders of Stonehenge, became master astronomers. They built incredible structures, massive observatories aligned with pinpoint precision to track the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. Think of Newgrange in Ireland, a tomb older than the pyramids, where a single shaft of light illuminates the inner chamber only on the winter solstice. Or the Great Pyramid of Giza, whose shafts are believed to point toward specific stars like Orion and Thuban. These weren't primitive people guessing. They were scientists and engineers applying a deep understanding of celestial mechanics. They meticulously recorded their observations on clay tablets, papyrus scrolls, and carved stone, creating the world's first astronomical databases. From these observations, one of the most enduring and mysterious concepts was born: the zodiac. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Newspaper horoscopes. But let's set that aside for a moment and look at the zodiac for what it truly was to the ancients. A brilliant cosmic machine. The word zodiac comes from the Greek for circle of little animals. It's a belt of 12 constellations that the sun, moon, and planets appear to travel through from our perspective on Earth. The ancients didn't just see a random collection of stars. They saw a celestial gear system. They imagined the Earth at the center, with the sun as a pointer, moving through one of the 12 zodiac signs each month. This gave them a precise way to mark the passage of a year. Each constellation became a house or a station of the sun. When the sun was in Aries, it was springtime. When it was in Cancer, it was the height of summer. It was a divine clock, ticking with perfect regularity. But the genius of this system goes even deeper. They weren't just tracking the sun's annual journey. They were tracking something much, much slower. A movement so subtle it takes nearly 26,000 years to complete one cycle. This is the phenomenon known as the precession of the equinoxes. Imagine the Earth spinning like a top. As it spins, it also has a slow, circular wobble on its axis. This wobble causes the position of the sun against the backdrop of the stars on the first day of spring, the vernal equinox, to shift backward, or precesses through the zodiac constellations over vast periods. What does this mean? It means that the age of the vernal equinox changes over time. About 2,000 years ago, during the time of the Roman Empire, the sun on the spring equinox would rise in the constellation of Aries, the ram. This is why we still sometimes refer to it as the first point of Aries. But due to precession, it has since drifted. Today, we are technically living in the age of Pisces, the fish, and we are slowly transitioning into the dawning of the age of Aquarius, the water bearer. Each of these great years, or ages, lasts for about 2,160 years. That the time it takes for the equinox to move through one sign of the zodiac, the entire cycle, through all 12 signs, takes about 25,920 years. Now, here's where things get truly mind-bending. The mathematics required to discover and calculate the precession of the equinoxes is incredibly advanced. The official history says it was discovered by the Greek astronomer Hipparchus around 130 BC. But there is a growing body of evidence that suggests much older cultures might have not only known about precession, but also encoded this knowledge into their myths, their architecture, and their sacred symbols. Think about the Sphinx in Egypt, with the body of a lion and the head of a man. Some researchers, like Graham Hancock, have proposed that the Sphinx might be a marker for the age of Leo, the lion, which occurred around 10,500 BC. This theory suggests that civilizations far older and more advanced than we currently believe may have existed, a lost epoch of humanity that was wiped out by a global cataclysm. Could the ancient myths of floods, cosmic battles, and golden ages actually be allegorical descriptions of these vast astronomical cycles? When they spoke of the end of one world and the beginning of another, were they referring to the shift from one astrological age to the next? For example, the end of the last ice age roughly coincides with this proposed timeline around the age of Leo. Is it possible that the survivors of this cataclysm tried to pass down their advanced knowledge of the cosmos through stories and monumental structures, creating a message in a bottle for future generations? A message that warns us of the great cycles of time and change. This concept reframes our entire understanding of antiquity. It transforms ancient monuments from simple tombs and temples into complex astronomical computers. It turns ancient myths from fanciful stories into sophisticated allegories carrying scientific data. The symbol of the Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail, could represent the cyclical nature of precession. The Hindu concept of the yugas, the great ages of the world, describes cycles of enlightenment and darkness that echo the 26,000-year precession cycle with startling accuracy. It seems that across the globe, our ancestors were obsessed with this grand celestial movement, the Great Year. They saw it as the master cycle that governed the rise and fall of civilizations, the rhythm of the cosmos itself. So, the next time you look at the stars, remember what you're really seeing. You're not just looking at distant suns. You're looking at the face of a giant, ancient clock, a clock that our ancestors knew how to read intimately. They understood its long, slow rhythm, and perhaps even its implications for the future of humanity. We're only just beginning to rediscover this lost language of the stars, piecing together the clues they left for us in stone and story. What other secrets are waiting to be unlocked in the silent, wheeling heavens? The journey to find out has only just begun. Have you ever looked up at the stars and felt a deep, ancient connection? It's a feeling that transcends time, a sense of wonder that links us directly to our most distant ancestors. Today, we're re-embarking on a journey to explore one of humanity's most breathtaking achievements: how ancient civilizations read the heavens, not with telescopes, but with stone, and built their world in alignment with the cosmos. Imagine standing at the foot of the Great Pyramid of Giza. It's not just a tomb. It's a marvel of precision. The four sides are almost perfectly aligned with the cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. This isn't a coincidence. The ancient Egyptians were master astronomers. They tracked the stars to determine the flooding of the Nile, the lifeblood of their civilization. Their pyramids, oriented with such incredible accuracy, are believed by many to be a reflection of the stars on Earth, a way to connect the earthly realm of the pharaoh with the eternal cosmos. Some theories even propose the layout of the three Giza pyramids mirrors the three stars of Orion's belt. Coincidence? Ora deliberat. Cosmic blueprint frozen in stone. Now, let's travel north, to the windswept plains of England, to a place shrouded in mystery: Stonehenge. For thousands of years, these massive stones have stood silent, guarding their secrets. But they do speak a language, the language of the sun. On the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, the rising sun aligns perfectly with the heelstone, casting a ray of light directly into the heart of the circle. On the winter solstice, the shortest day, the setting sun aligns with another key axis. Stonehenge is more than just a pile of rocks. It's a celestial clock, a calendar in stone that marked the turning of the seasons. It told our ancestors when to plant, when to harvest, and when to celebrate. It was the rhythm of their lives, dictated by the dance of the sun and the moon. But this phenomenon isn't limited to just Egypt and England. All around the world, we find ancient structures that seem to whisper celestial secrets. In the heart of the Cambodian jungle, the magnificent temple of Angkor Wat is a microcosm of the Hindu universe. Its towers, moats, and causeways are aligned with the solar and lunar cycles, with specific events marked by the equinoxes. The temple itself becomes an astronomical instrument, a place where earthly architecture and heavenly movements become one. Fly with me now across the Pacific to the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, to the Mayan city of Chichén Itzá. Here stands the Pyramid of El Castillo, also known as the Temple of Cuc. This structure is a masterpiece of calendrical and astronomical design. It has 4 stairways, each with 91 steps. If you add them all up and include the top platform as one final step, you get 365, the number of days in a solar year. But the real magic happens during the spring and fall equinoxes. As the sun sets, a shadow in the shape of a serpent appears to slither down the side of the northern staircase, a stunning visual representation of the feathered serpent god, Kukulkan, returning to Earth. This wasn't just decoration. It was a powerful, public display of the Mayan rulers' command over both time and the divine. From the sun-drenched temples of Malta, older than the pyramids themselves, to the medicine wheels of the Native Americans in North America, the story is the same. Our ancestors possessed a profound understanding of the cosmos. They observed, they calculated, and they built. But how did they achieve such astonishing precision without modern tools? How did they quarry, transport, and erect multi-ton stones with alignments accurate to a fraction of a degree. This is the enduring mystery. Some theories point to generations of meticulous observation, passing down knowledge through oral traditions and sacred rituals. Imagine stargazing priests, spending entire lifetimes tracking the subtle shifts of the stars, creating a body of knowledge that was both scientific and deeply spiritual. They might have used simple but effective tools, plumb bobs for vertical lines, water levels for horizons, and sighting sticks to track celestial bodies across the sky. By repeating these observations year after year, they could achieve incredible accuracy. Think about the sheer human effort and dedication this required. These weren't just construction projects. They were acts of faith, community efforts that could span centuries. Building a stone calendar was a way of bringing order to the universe, of making sense of the chaos of nature. It was a way to harmonize human life with the grand, predictable cycles of the heavens. In a world without clocks or smartphones, the sun, moon, and stars were the ultimate timekeepers. The ability to predict their movements was not just knowledge, it was power. It was survival. These structures challenge our modern perceptions of primitive societies. They reveal cultures with a deep, sophisticated understanding of mathematics, engineering, and astronomy. They show us that our desire to understand our place in the universe is one of the most ancient human impulses. The precision is not just a technical feat, it's a philosophical statement. By aligning their most sacred spaces with the cosmos, ancient peoples were declaring their connection to a larger, divine order. Their temples weren't just places of worship. They were active participants in the celestial drama, portals connecting earth and sky. So the next time you look at a photo of the pyramids or Stonehenge, don't just see them as ancient ruins. See them for what they are. Silent stone observatories. See the genius of the people who built them, people who looked at the same sky we do. And so not just points of light, but a grand cosmic clock, a divine map. They encoded this wisdom into the very foundations of their world, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire awe and wonder to this day. They remind us that we are all, in our own way, children of the stars. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through time and space. Have you ever looked at a clock and wondered, why 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour? Why not 100? Why not 10? The answer isn't arbitrary. It's a ghost from the past, a legacy left to us by one of the world's first great civilizations, the Sumerians. Today we're journeying back over 5,000 years to the Fertile Crescent, to the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, to uncover how ancient gods' cosmic battles and the very concept of kingship gave birth to the way we measure time. This isn't just a history lesson. It's the secret story behind every ticking clock. Before the Sumerians, time was a fluid, natural rhythm: sunrise, sunset, the phases of the moon, the turning of the seasons. But as cities like Uruk and Yo grew, so did the need for something more precise. They needed to organize labor, plan agricultural cycles, and conduct religious rituals at exact moments. They needed to master time itself, and their solution was genius. They didn't count on their fingers like we do, base 10. They used a sexagesimal system, or base 60. Why 60? Look at your hand. Using your thumb, you can count the 12 segments on your 4 fingers. Now, do that 5 times. For each finger on your other hand, 12 times 5 gives you 60. It was a sophisticated system hiding in plain sight, a natural calculator they carried with them everywhere. This number, 60, became sacred. It was more than just a counting tool. It was the mathematical foundation of their universe. They observed the heavens, mapping the stars and planets. They noticed that the sun and moon appeared to journey through 12 constellations, giving us the zodiac. They divided the circle into 360 degrees, that's 60 times 6. From the vastness of the cosmos to the palm of their hand, the number 60 connected everything. It was the number of divine order. But for the Sumerians, order wasn't a given. It had to be established and maintained. And this is where their gods come in. At the apex of their pantheon was Anu, the god of the heavens. Anu was the ultimate authority, the source of all power. He represented the unchanging, eternal sky, the grand cosmic backdrop. His number was 60, the highest, the most perfect number in their system. He was the embodiment of the sexagesimal system itself, the divine accountant of the universe. However, Anu was remote, a distant celestial king. The real power on earth and in the heavens was wielded by his son, Enlil, the god of wind, air, and storms. If Anu was the silent, unchanging sky, Enlil was its chaotic, unpredictable power. He was the enforcer, the one who executed the divine decrees. His number was 50. Enlil held a tablet of destinies, a divine document that contained the fate of everything and everyone. To control the tablet was to control reality. He was the one who could grant kingship to mortals, and he could just as easily take it away. Then there was Enki, the god of wisdom, magic, and the life-giving fresh waters. His number was 40. While Enlil was about power and decrees, Enki was about cleverness, creation, and problem-solving. He was the divine architect and engineer, the one who taught humanity the arts of civilization. It was Enki who organized the world, assigning roles to lesser gods and bringing order out of chaos. He was the god of practical application, the one who took the grand cosmic plans and made them work on the ground. Anu, Enlil, and Enki. 60, 50, and 40. Do you see the pattern? It's a divine hierarchy, a cosmic government reflected in numbers. Anu is the ultimate source of order, the basic. Enlil is his powerful executor, and Enki is the wise administrator who makes it all happen. Their numerical ranking wasn't just for show. It represented Taman the cosmic responsibilities. This divine order was directly mirrored on Earth in the institution of kingship. The Sumerians believed that kingship descended from heaven. The king was not a god, but he was the chosen representative of the gods, specifically Anu. His job was to maintain the order established by the divine trinity. He was the earthly shepherd, responsible for ensuring the temples were maintained, the rituals were performed on time, and justice was upheld. The king's legitimacy was tied to this cosmic clockwork. He was the link between the human world and the divine realm. When a king ruled well, it meant the connection was strong. The harvests would be plentiful, the city would be safe, and the universe was in balance. But if he failed, it was a sign of cosmic disorder, and the gods might withdraw their favor. This entire system, the gods, the kings, the people, was synchronized by a shared understanding of time, built on the number 60. The religious calendar, filled with festivals honoring Anu, Enlil, and Enki, was meticulously planned. The work schedules for building the massive temple towers that reached for the heavens were calculated using their sexagesimal math. Economic transactions, recorded on clay tablets in cuneiform script, used the same system. So, when a Sumerian priest looked at the sky to determine the right moment for a ritual, he was doing more than just telling time. He was participating in a cosmic drama. He was aligning his actions with the will of Anu, the power of Enlil, and the wisdom of Enki. He was reinforcing the very structure of the universe. And this incredible system didn't die with the Sumerians. Their knowledge was passed on to the Akkadians, the Babylonians, the Greeks, and eventually, the entire world. The Babylonians refined Sumerian astronomy, creating an even more precise calendar and complex astrological charts, all based on the number 60. When Greek astronomers like Hipparchus and Ptolemy developed their models of the cosmos, they adopted the Babylonian sexagesimal system for their calculations, because it was simply the best tool for the job, and from there, it entered the modern world. The division of a circle into 360 degrees, the 60 minutes in a degree, the 60 seconds in a minute, all of it is a direct inheritance from a civilization that disappeared thousands of years ago. So the next time you glance at your watch, or check the time on your phone, take a second to think about it. That simple act connects you to a chain of knowledge stretching back to the dawn of history. You are, in a small way, honoring the legacy of Anu, the distant Skyfather. You are using a tool conceptualized by the followers of Enki, the wise creator. You are participating in a system of order once enforced by Enlil, the Lord of the Storm. You are not just measuring a day, you are measuring it in the language of the gods. The ghost in your machine, the ticking in your clock, is the faint echo of a Sumerian chant, a mathematical prayer for order in a chaotic world. Today, diving deep into a topic that had the whole world buzzing just over a decade ago, the Mayan calendar and the infamous 2012 prophecy. Remember that? The movies, the news reports, the people stocking up on canned goods. It was a wild time, but what was it all really about? Was the world supposed to end? Well, spoiler alert, it didn't. But the story behind the prediction is far more fascinating than any doomsday scenario. So, let's start with the basics. Who were the Maya? They were an incredibly advanced civilization in Mesoamerica, known for their stunning pyramids, complex writing systems, and most importantly, for our story, their mastery of astronomy and timekeeping. They didn't just have one calendar. They had several, all interlocking like a sophisticated cosmic clock. There was the Hab, a 365-day solar calendar much like our own, used for agriculture. Then there was the Tusokan, a 260-day sacred calendar used for scheduling religious ceremonies. These two calendars worked together, forming a 52-year cycle. But for tracking vast stretches of time, the Maya used something truly epic: the long count. Imagine trying to write down a date thousands of years in the future. That's what the long count was for. It was their way of placing any given day within a grand, sweeping timeline. It's organized in cycles. Within cycles, you have the Kayan, which is 1 day. 20 Kayans make a winal, or 20 days. 80 minals make a ton, or 360 days close to a solar year. 20 tons make a kayatan, which is about 20 years. And finally, 20 kaotons make a Burk ton, a massive cycle of roughly 394 years. Now, this is where it gets interesting. According to Mayan cosmology, the world we live in is not the first one. They believed in a series of world ages or creations, each lasting for 13 Burk tons. That's a huge period, about 5,125 years. The previous world age, according to their calculations, ended, and our current one began on a date that correlates to August 11th, 3114 BCE in our calendar. So, if you do the math, starting from that date and counting forward 13 full Burk tons, you land on, you guessed it, December 21st, 2012. This was the date that marked the completion of a grand 13-book-ton cycle, and this is where the modern world's imagination ran wild. The idea that a great cycle was ending was misinterpreted by popular culture to mean the end, the apocalypse, Armageddon, global cataclysm. But here's the crucial misunderstanding. For the Maya, the end of a cycle was never about destruction. It was about transition and renewal. Think of it like New Year's Eve. Does the world end when the clock strikes midnight on December 31st? Of course not. We celebrate the end of one year and the beginning of another. It's a moment of reflection, celebration, and looking forward to a fresh start. For the Maya, the end of the 13th Burk ton was similar, but on a much grander, cosmic scale. It was the closing of one world age and the dawning of a new one. It was a time for monumental ceremony and renewal, not for panic and fear. In fact, if you look at actual Mayan inscriptions, there's no mention of a world-ending catastrophe in 2012. Archaeologists have found texts that reference dates far into the future, thousands of years beyond 2012. This clearly shows that the Maya themselves never believed time would simply stop. They saw time as cyclical, infinite, and ever-renewing. The calendar doesn't just end. It resets, like an odometer in a car rolling over from 99,999 to zero. The journey continues. So, why did the 2012 doomsday idea become so popular? It's a mix of things. It taps into a deep-seated human fascination with end-of-the-world stories, which have existed in almost every culture throughout history. It was also fueled by a New Age spiritual movement that blended Mayan concepts with other beliefs about planetary alignments and spiritual transformations. And, of course, Hollywood saw a golden opportunity for some blockbuster disaster movies, which cemented the idea in the public consciousness. The truth is, the 2012 phenomenon says much more about our modern anxieties than it does about ancient Mayan beliefs. We took their sophisticated, cyclical view of time and flattened it into a linear, dramatic endpoint. We projected our own fears of societal collapse, environmental disaster, and uncertainty onto their calendar. But the real lesson from the Mayan long count is actually a beautiful and hopeful one. It teaches us that time moves in cycles of creation, completion, and rebirth. Endings are not final. They are simply the precursors to new beginnings. It's a worldview that encourages us to see change not as something to be feared, but as a natural and necessary part of the cosmic dance. It reminds us that every day, every year, and every great age offers an opportunity for renewal and to build a better world. So, the next time you hear about an ancient prophecy predicting the end, take a moment to dig a little deeper. More often than not, you'll find that the real story is one of wisdom, cycles, and continuity, not chaos and destruction. The legacy of the Maya isn't a failed prophecy. It's a profound reminder of our place within the vast, repeating cycles of the universe. Have you ever felt like you've lived this moment before? That feeling of dare? The sense that history is just repeating itself. We're so used to thinking of time as a straight line, a one-way street from a definite beginning to a final end. But what if that's not the whole story? What if time isn't a line at all, but a wheel, endlessly turning? This isn't just some sci-fi plot. It's an ancient idea, a profound way of looking at our world and our place in it, known as the Yuga cycle. This concept comes from ancient Indian philosophy and describes a vast cycle of 4 great ages, or yugas, that humanity passes through. It's a cosmic clock, ticking away the rise and fall of consciousness, virtue, and even our own lifespan. It all begins with the Satya Yuga, the Golden Age. Imagine a time of absolute truth and perfection. In the Satya Yuga, humanity is at its spiritual peak. People are naturally good, wise, and deeply connected to the divine. There's no crime, no greed, no deception. Lifespans are extraordinarily long, stretching for thousands of years. Knowledge isn't learned from books. It's an intuitive understanding of the universe. It's an age of harmony, where people live in complete peace with each other and with nature. This is the starting point, the pinnacle of human potential. But like all things in a cycle, it can't last forever. The wheel must turn. As the wheel turns, we enter the Treta Yuga, the Silver Age. Virtue is still strong, but it's no longer effortless. Righteousness has declined by 1/4. People now need rituals, ceremonies, and sacrifices to maintain their connection to the divine. This is the age where duty and honor become paramount. Great kings and epic heroes emerge to uphold justice. Think of the grand epics. Stories of courage and sacrifice. People are still noble, but the first seeds of conflict and desire have been sown. Lifespans are shorter than in the Golden Age, but still impressively long. The world is still a magnificent place, but the first shadows are beginning to appear at the edges. Society becomes more structured, with divisions and duties taking shape. The effortless perfection of the Satya Yuga has given way to a world where goodness requires conscious effort. Next, the wheel turns further into the Devapara Yuga, the Bronze Age. By now, virtue and spirituality have declined by half. The world is a mix of good and evil. Doubt, disease, and discontent become common. People are driven more by passion and ambition than by pure truth. Knowledge is no longer intuitive. It has to be written down, categorized, and studied. The great scriptures and sciences are compiled during this age to preserve the wisdom that is fading from human consciousness. Lifespans decrease significantly. It's an age of immense intellectual and material progress, but this comes at a cost. Conflict increases, and humanity becomes further separated from its spiritual core. You can see the balance has tipped. The world is no longer predominantly good. It's a battleground between light and darkness, both within society and within each individual soul. And that brings us to the age we are said to be in now. The Kali Yuga, the Iron Age. This is the age of darkness and ignorance. Virtue has been reduced to just 1/4 of its original strength. Greed, anger, and dishonesty are rampant. The world is plagued by conflict, corruption, and spiritual amnesia. We've become obsessed with the material world, forgetting our connection to the divine and to each other. Lifespans are short and fraught with struggle. Truth is hidden, and falsehood often parades as wisdom. It sounds pretty bleak, doesn't it? In this age, righteousness is a constant struggle, a flickering candle in a storm. The very foundations of society, family, honor, truth are constantly under attack. But here's the most beautiful and hopeful part of this entire cosmic story. The Kali Yuga is the darkest hour, but it's the hour just before the dawn. Just as a wheel reaches its lowest point, only to begin rising again. The end of the Kali Yuga marks the beginning of a new Satya Yuga. The cycle doesn't end in destruction. It ends in renewal. When the darkness and degradation of the Kali Yuga reach their absolute peak, a spiritual reset occurs. The world is cleansed, and the slate is wiped clean. And then, the Golden Age returns in all its glory. Truth, peace, and harmony are restored. Humanity once again awakens to its highest potential. The great wheel completes its turn, and a new cycle begins. So, this idea completely changes how we see our world. Instead of a linear progression towards some unknown end, we see an eternal rhythm of creation, preservation, and dissolution. It means that even in the darkest of times, there is an inherent promise of renewal. Our struggles, our conflicts, the chaos we see around us in this cosmic perspective, they're all part of a predictable phase, a winter that will inevitably give way to spring. This concept of cyclical time wasn't unique to India. The ancient Greeks had a similar idea with their ages of silver, bronze, and iron. The Aztecs and Mayans saw time as a series of worlds, or suns, each created and destroyed in a cycle. It seems that across cultures, ancient peoples looked at the stars, at the seasons, at birth and death, and saw not a line, but a circle, an infinite recurrence. Thinking of time as a wheel can be incredibly empowering. It suggests that the virtues of the Golden Age, truth, compassion, harmony, are not lost forever. They are simply dormant, waiting within us to be reawakened. Even in the midst of the Kali Yuga, every act of kindness, every moment of truth, every person who strives for goodness is planting the seeds for the future Golden Age. We are not just passive passengers on this wheel. Our actions contribute to the turning. We are keeping the light alive until the dawn. So, the next time you feel that sense of déjà vu or see patterns repeating in your life or in the world, maybe you're not just imagining it. Maybe you're sensing the faint, ancient rhythm of the universe, the turning of the great wheel of time, which assures us that after every night, there is a dawn, and after every winter, a spring. The end is never truly the end, but always a new beginning. Have you ever felt like you're living through a major turning point in history? Like the world is on the cusp of a massive change? What if I told you that the ancient Greeks and Egyptians not only felt the same way, but they believed these changes were part of a massive, predictable cosmic cycle? A cycle so vast it measures the very heartbeat of the universe. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most mind-bending concepts from antiquity, the Great Year. This isn't your typical 365-day calendar. We're talking about a colossal cycle, lasting nearly 26,000 years, that ancient philosophers believed governed the rise and fall of civilizations, the evolution of human consciousness, and even the fundamental nature of reality itself. Let's start with a brilliant philosopher, Plato. Around 360 BC, he wrote about a perfect year, or great year. He proposed that this is the length of time it takes for the sun, moon, and all the planets to complete their journeys through the heavens and return to their original starting positions relative to one another. Imagine the most complex celestial clock imaginable, with every planet as a gear. The great year is the time it takes for all those gears to click back into their starting alignment. Plato believed that at the end of each great year, the universe is essentially renewed. Some interpretations suggest a cataclysmic event, a cosmic reset button involving fire and water, followed by the world being repopulated by a new race of humans, starting the cycle of history all over again. It's a powerful idea. History isn't a straight line, but a grand, repeating circle. This concept of cyclical ages wasn't unique to Plato. It echoes the ancient Hindu concept of the yugas and the Greek ages of man, described by the poet, he outlined a descent from a utopian golden age through the silver, bronze, and heroic ages, down to his own time, which he called the corrupt and difficult Iron Age. The implication was that after the Iron Age bottomed out, a new golden age would eventually dawn, restarting the cycle. Could Plato's great year be the cosmic engine driving these ages? But where did Plato get this idea? To find the source, we need to travel further back in time and south, to the land of the pharaohs. Ancient Egypt. The Egyptians were master astronomers and timekeepers. Their entire civilization was built around the predictable cycles of the Nile River, which were, in turn, linked to the cycles of the stars. They meticulously charted the heavens, not just for agriculture and navigation, but for deep spiritual reasons. They believed the universe was a living, breathing entity, and that the movements of the stars were its language, and they discovered something extraordinary. They observed that the position of the stars at sunrise on the spring equinox wasn't fixed. It drifted very, very slowly backwards through the constellations of the zodiac. This phenomenon is what we now call the precession of the. It's caused by a slow wobble of the earth on its axis, like a spinning top that's slightly off. The Egyptians, and later the Greeks, calculated the rate of this wobble. They figured out that it takes about 72 years for the equinox position to move just 1 degree across the sky. Now, if you multiply that 72 years by the 360 degrees of the full zodiacal circle, what do you get? 25,920 years. This number is astonishingly close to our modern scientific calculation for one full precessional cycle. This, many scholars believe, is the true origin of the great year. It's not just a philosophical concept, it's rooted in empirical, long-term astronomical observation. For the ancient Egyptians, this 25,920-year cycle was profound. It was the great year of the gods. Each month of this great year, lasting roughly 2,160 years, corresponded to the sun rising in a different zodiacal constellation during the spring equinox. This transition from one astrological age to another was believed to herald massive shifts in global consciousness, religion, and culture. Think about it. The age of Taurus, the bull, was associated with bull worship in places like Minoan Crete and ancient Egypt. This was followed by the age of Aries, the ram, a time when ram-headed deities like Amun-Ra rose to prominence in Egypt. Then came the age of Pisces, the fish, which began roughly around the time of the birth of Christ, whose symbol was famously the ichthys, or fish. And today, we are said to be transitioning out of Pisces and into the age of Aquarius. This brings us to a fascinating and speculative idea. If this 25,920-year cycle is a fundamental rhythm of our solar system, could it be considered the heartbeat of the universe, at least as our ancestors perceived it? Let's break down the numbers, because this is where it gets truly mind-blowing. The number 72 seems to be a key harmonic of this cosmic rhythm. Remember, it takes 72 years for the equinox to precede. 1 degree. Now, consider the human body. A healthy, resting human heart beats, on average, around 72 times per minute. A person takes about 18 breaths per minute, and 18 times 4 is 72. The average human lifespan in many ancient texts was considered to be about 72 years. It's an uncanny coincidence. Did ancient priests and mystics see a connection? Did they believe that the rhythm of the human body, the microcosm, was a direct reflection of the grand rhythm of the cosmos, the macrocosm? This idea, as above, so below, was a cornerstone of ancient esoteric thought. They believed that by understanding the cycles of the heavens, they could understand the cycles of life on earth, and even the inner workings of the human soul. This 25,920-year cycle wasn't just an abstract number. It was encoded in their myths, their architecture, and their sacred geometry. For them, it was proof that we are not living in a random, chaotic universe. Instead, we are part of a grand, orderly, and deeply meaningful cosmic symphony. A symphony with a very, very slow and steady rhythm. A heartbeat that marks the passage of ages and the eternal dance of creation and renewal. So, the next time you look up at the night sky, remember that you're not just seeing distant points of light. You're looking at the face of a cosmic clock, one that has been ticking for eons. And perhaps, if you listen closely enough, you can still hear the faint, steady rhythm of the universe's heartbeat, a rhythm that connects us all to the ancient past and the distant future. What do you think? Is this all just a coincidence of numbers, or did the ancients stumble upon a fundamental truth about our universe and our place within it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever felt like time was flying by? Or maybe just crawling? What if I told you that wasn't just a feeling, but a fundamental truth about how we experience reality? We often think of time as a constant, a river flowing steadily in one direction. But what if the clock isn't out there in the universe, but right here, inside our own minds? Let's start with a simple idea. The human brain is our personal clock of perception. Think about it. When you're a child, summer holidays feel like an eternity. As an adult, years seem to blur together. This isn't because time itself has changed, but because our brains process it differently. Neuroscientists have found that our perception of time is linked to the amount of new information we're reabsorbing. The more new experiences, the slower time seems to pass. This is why our first kiss, our first trip abroad, or the first day at a new job feels so vivid and stretched out in our memories. Our brains are working overtime, creating a rich, detailed tapestry of the moment. Conversely, as our lives become more routine, our brains go on autopilot. The days, weeks, and months blend into one another because there's less new data to process. Time speeds up because we're simply not paying as much attention. So, in a very real sense, the speed of your life is determined by the novelty of your experiences. This idea that time is subjective isn't new. It's a concept that has echoed through human history, woven into our oldest stories and myths. Think about the tales of time travel, not with machines, but through consciousness. In Irish folklore, there's the story of Oisin, a poet who travels to Tir na Nog, the land of eternal youth. He spends what feels like 3 years there, only to return to Ireland and discover that 300 years have passed. His perception of time was completely disconnected from the world he left behind. Similarly, in Japanese mythology, the tale of Urashima Tar tells of a fisherman who visits an undersea palace. He believes he's been gone for only a few days, but upon returning to his village he finds it has been centuries. These aren't just fantasy stories. They are allegories for the elasticity of our internal experience of time. They suggest that our ancestors understood, on an intuitive level, that time is not an absolute. These myths are a form of mental time travel, exploring the idea that our consciousness can journey through time at its own pace. It's a journey not of the body, but of the mind. This brings us to one of the biggest questions in both physics and philosophy. Is time a fundamental dimension of the universe, or is it merely a projection of our awareness? The block universe theory in physics suggests that the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. Time, in this view, is like a fourth dimension, just as real as length, width, and height. Our journey through it is simply our consciousness moving along this pre-existing timeline. We only perceive the now because that's where our awareness is currently focused, like a spotlight moving along a film strip. Every moment that has ever been, and ever will be, is already there, frozen in space-time. This is a mind-bending concept, suggesting that free will might be an illusion and the future is already written. But there's another perspective, one that places consciousness at the center of creation. What if time doesn't exist independently of an observer? What if time is not a dimension we travel through, but something our consciousness projects, like a movie onto a screen? In T's model, there is only the eternal now. The past is a memory, a reconstruction in our minds, and the future is a potential, an imagination. Time emerges from the act of observation. The universe, without a conscious observer, would be a timeless, static soup of probabilities. It's our awareness that collapses these probabilities into a sequence of events we call time. This idea resonates with some interpretations of quantum mechanics, where the act of measurement fundamentally changes the state of a system. Could it be that consciousness itself is the ultimate measuring device, bringing the flow of time into existence? So, we're left with this fascinating duality. Is our brain a receiver, tuning into a specific frequency on the timeline of a pre-existing universe? Or is it a projector, creating the very flow of time through the act of perception. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Maybe time is a co-creation between the universe and the conscious mind. The universe provides the raw material, the potential for events, and our consciousness acts as the weaver, threading these potentials into the linear story we call our life. This would mean that by changing our consciousness, by altering our state of awareness, we could fundamentally change our experience of time. Practices like meditation, which aim to focus awareness on the present moment, often lead to a feeling of timelessness, a state where the clock seems to stop. This supports the idea that our internal state directly influences our perception of time's passage. Think about how this reframes your own life. If you want to slow down time, you don't need a time machine. You need to fill your life with new experiences, learn new skills, travel to new places, and meet new people. You need to feed your brain novel information to make it feel like you're reliving more life in the same number of years. You can literally stretch your perception of your own lifespan. Conversely, if you want to feel a sense of flow where hours feel like minutes, you can immerse yourself in a task you love, achieving a state of deep focus where your sense of self and time melts away. You have more control over your personal timeline than you might think. You are the conductor of your own temporal symphony. The journey through time, then, isn't about building a DeLorean. It's an inward journey. It's about understanding the intricate relationship between your mind, your perception, and the very fabric of reality. The greatest time travel device ever invented is the human brain, capable of reliving the past through memory and exploring infinite futures through imagination. So, the next time you feel time slipping through your fingers, pause. Take a deep breath. Look around you with fresh eyes, as if you're seeing the world for the first time. You might just find that you can slow the river down, and in doing so, truly begin to live in the moment. The clock is ticking, but you, in a profound way, are the one who sets its pace. Have you ever felt like you're standing on the edge of history, watching one era fade and another begin? It's a feeling that's both thrilling and a little unsettling. We often think of time as a straight line, marching forward from a distant past into an unknown future. But what if it's not a line at all? What if time is a circle, a grand, repeating cycle of ages, each with its own dreams, its own triumphs, and its own vision of forever? This idea isn't new. Ancient civilizations, from the Mayans, with their intricate calendars, to the Hindus, with their concept of all saw time as cyclical. They understood that everything in nature, from the turning of the seasons to the orbits of the stars, moves in circles. Why should human history be any different? Each civilization reaches its peak, and then, inevitably, declines, making way for the next. The circle never truly ends. It just begins again. Think about the great ages of the past. The Roman Empire, dreaming of an eternal city, a dominion that would never fall. Their aqueducts, their laws, their legions all were built to last forever. And for a time, it seemed they would. But the circle turned. The dream of Rome faded, but it didn't disappear. It splintered, transformed, and its fragments became the seeds of new kingdoms, new dreams, new eternities in the medieval world. Then came the Renaissance, an age that looked back at the classical world and dreamed of reviving its glory. Artists and thinkers saw themselves not just as innovators, but as restorers of a lost perfection. They were trying to complete a circle, to bring back a golden age. They dreamed of an eternity of beauty, knowledge, and human potential. Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, they weren't just creating art. They were building monuments to a timeless ideal, a dream of permanence in a world of change. Fast forward to the Industrial Revolution. The dream shifted. This new age dreamed of an eternity of progress, of machines that would conquer nature and create a world of endless abundance. The rhythmic clang of the factory, the hiss of the steam engine, these were the heartbeats of a new era. People believed they were on an unstoppable upward path, building a future that would be forever better, forever more advanced. Their eternity was a promise of perpetual growth, a line stretching infinitely upwards. But even that dream had its limits. The world wars, the environmental crises, the social upheavals of the 20th century. They showed us that progress has a cost. The circle turned once more. We entered the information age, the digital era. Our dream of eternity changed again. Now, it lives in the cloud, in the endless stream of data, and the connections that span the globe in an instant. We dream of a digital eternity, where our memories are stored on servers, our identities preserved in profiles, and our ideas can live forever online. We are building a new Alexandria, not of scrolls, but of data library of human experience that we hope will be immune to fire and flood. This is our version of forever, and this brings us to now. To us, we are standing at a fascinating point in the cycle. We are the inheritors of all these past dreams, the Roman dream of order, the Renaissance dream of beauty, the industrial dream of progress, and the digital dream of connection. We carry all of it within us. But we are also creating our own dream. We are becoming the new timekeepers. What is the eternity our age will dream of? Perhaps it's an eternity of sustainability, where we learn to live in harmony with the planet, closing the loop and respecting the natural cycles we once sought to conquer. Perhaps it's an eternity of deeper connection, moving beyond the superficiality of social media to build genuine global communities. We are the ones who decide what forever looks like for our time. We are the architects of the next arc in the Great Circle. We do this with the art we create, the technology we build, the communities we foster, and the values we choose to live by. Every choice we make, every story we tell, is a small brushstroke on the vast canvas of our age's dream. It's easy to feel small in the face of such a grand concept. But remember, the greatest ages were built by individuals. The circle doesn't turn on its own. It is turned by people. B-U-S. We are not just passive observers of history. We are its active participants. We are the timekeepers. We are the dreamers. The past is not a dead thing. It's a living presence, a blueprint, a warning, and an inspiration. By understanding these cycles, we can learn from the ages that came before. We can see the patterns, the recurring hopes and fears. We can understand that our challenges are not entirely new and that our dreams of eternity are part of a long, human tradition. So, as you go about your day, think about this. What is the dream you are contributing to? What kind of forever are you helping to build? It's a powerful question, and there's no single right answer. The beauty of it is that we are all answering it together. The circle returns. The age of Rome is gone, but the desire for order remains. The Renaissance is over, but the pursuit of beauty and knowledge continues. The steam engines have quieted, but the drive for innovation is stronger than ever. We are the next chapter in this incredible, repeating story. We are the new timekeepers, and our age is just beginning to dream its own eternity. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through time.